What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Join alongside Tim in Green Bay. Here to talk some Packers. Excited to get into it as we're about to actually, we already did it, Tim. We turned the calendar over. It is June 1st, baby. We are getting closer.
First of the month, baby. Before you know it, it'll be training camp. Can't wait.
Man, so we got another, actually got a mandatory mini camp coming up here really soon, if I remember correctly, right? It's going to be in June sometime. So
still got another round of OTAs, correct? I'm going to be working this week, I believe.
Yeah, it's weird because I'm hearing that as well, but see, I had the dates in here. Looks like I don't know, it's not showing right now. I'm showing June 2nd. Yeah, June 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th is going to be OTAs. And then the mandatory mini camp is not on our ticker at the moment, is it?
We can get that taken care of, sir.
I think it was, I want to say it's like late June is the mandatory mini camp, but I could be wrong there. But nonetheless, we got
it, June 10th through the 11th.
There you go. And that's kind of the big one, right? That's the one where the rubber meets the road a little bit. Like, okay, look, it's mandatory. You know, it doesn't mean players won't skip it anyway. And here's the reality, like the players that have already skipped, at least like I think it's the number somewhere between 70 and 90% of the offseason. If they can't hit that mark, they're not going to be there for mandatory minicamp because they already missed out on their offseason workout bonus. You know, people like Jair Alexander, although he did say he was going to show to that. Elton Jenkins, however, I imagine he'll probably skip it unless they get a deal done, which, again, man, you know, whether you agree with him or not, I understand where he's coming from. He's trying to get a little bit more guaranteed money because the reality is after this year, they could just cut bait with him, and he's trying to lock in a little guarantee. Hey, give me some security, right? That type of thing. So I never fault a player for trying to do that. And it is funny, Tim, because it feels like the tide has shifted a little bit. Fans used to be really, really hardcore into you're under contract, get in here, you know, that type of thing. And it seems like people have eased on that a little bit. And I'll be honest with you, I'm glad they did because, you know, it's not as cut and dry as us fans want it to be, myself included. I would love for the contract to be, hey, here's what it is. Yep. Nobody can opt out type thing or skip any work. But
hey, that's like the business world, right, Clay? I mean, if you've got, you know, 1 year left on a contract with a client, that last year you're going to be trying to negotiate something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the people say you need to honor the contract. Well, that goes both ways, you know. Yep. Like when they say a player needs to honor the contract, okay, the team does too then, right? Meaning if they've got 2 more years left on their deal and they cut bait because there's no guaranteed money, they're not honoring the contract either, right? So that's – and then the argument flips to, all right, yeah, well, it was in the contract. There was no guaranteed money, so they knew they'd get cut, right? And you can flip it and say the player knew there was no more guaranteed money, so he's going to withhold services until he gets some guaranteed money. Yep. So you could, you know, argue back and forth on it all day long. So, but anyway, it's it's too old for this. Says nobody was hated more for missing camp than Tway. It's funny how those people don't seem to worry as much about Elton, right? Because people got pissed when Aaron would cut out of mini camp. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. We don't want to get into that here this evening. Let's go to the Patreon group though, Tim, and see what questions we got in there. Jason in the Patreon community, and if you want to join our Patreon group, that's how you get your questions and thoughts right over the air. Same as the super chat. Super chats are still good to go here on YouTube. It ties into the leaderboard and all that, but you can go to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. So people ask, what's the best way I can support the show? This is the way right here. $3 gets you access to everything on the site and get you locked in with our community and all that good stuff. So patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Here are the questions. Jason says, unpopular opinion. I don't think quarterbacks should be allowed to run with the ball. So I have a rule proposal, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it. P.S. I use the robot to organize my thoughts and make the format. So we won't be able to read the entire thing, but here is essentially what it says in terms of the rule. Passers designated pregame or pre-play cannot run past the line of scrimmage under any circumstance. I'm going to be honest with you, Jason. I appreciate the comment. I'm hating it already. It just doesn't.
Lamar Jackson.
Exactly. Benefits it restores balance between offense and defense, promotes quarterback safety, reinforces structure over improvisation. rule modification, basically saying that if someone's a declared passer, they can't scramble beyond the line of scrimmage. I understand the passion behind you wanting this rule change. And again, we're not going to go through all the things. It's pretty cool that AI did draw that up for him. Let me finish this comment here, and then I'll give you my take. Also, I know this would never happen because of the excitement of chaotic plays when quarterbacks scramble and pump up ratings, but I think it could be a good conversation. Personally, I think this change would be more exciting because it would be more skill-based, and even between offense and defense. Defense is already fighting an uphill battle in the modern NFL, and that's where he's going right after my heartstrings, Tim, because the thing that I hate about the scrambling quarterback is how they're overly protected. Right. It's okay. It turns into we're protecting them in the pocket. You can only hit them at the waistline. You can't go high. You can't go low. Both are penalties, right?
I got a rule change proposal. Get rid of the damn slide.
Yes.
If you want to run, you want to tuck that ball and run past the line of scrimmage, it's open season on you. You're a ball carrier now. Enough of that. They, like you said, Clay, they get enough protection afforded to them in the pocket. And even outside of the pocket, behind the line of scrimmage, they get the benefit of the doubt more often than not, right? I think that'd be pretty cool, personally. Get rid of the slide, right? No more Pat Mahomes baiting people on the sideline.
Exactly. I like what 2-0 for this says. I've got a rule change proposal. Rub some dirt on it, right?
There we go.
Yeah. No, but that would be the rule change I would go for, Tim. We're right there in the same vein for sure, because the fact that they can now manipulate and fake a slide, I think we've seen Mac Jones do it a little bit. There was another player in college, Kenny Pickett, perfected it, acting like he was going to slide, then he'd stay up and run right past the defense, that type of stuff. That would be the way I would approach it. Like, look, as soon as you leave that pocket, as soon as you decide I'm running beyond that line of scrimmage, you're fair game, bub. And you can slide, but the defense can still touch you. Right. Until they touch you. I mean, they can
all the other rules still apply, right? No hitting to the head and neck area, all of that. That's still the same. But I agree, Clay. Let's do it. Let's get the rules committee on it. Let's draw it up. Get the NFLPA. Let's start a campaign. Come on, Clay. We can do it.
I think we can make it happen. So again, you guys in the Patreon group, go check this out. It's pretty cool how you use AI to write up the entire rule change and the rebuttal and all that good stuff. So appreciate that. Papa Smurf in the chat said, or posted this link, said, I'm assuming this there is no truth to this story. So AI got him there, obviously. Somebody put a fake article up that says Packers acquire Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals. What it means. Obviously, that didn't happen.
Who the hell is that picture supposed to be?
I don't know, Tim. To be honest with you. Maybe that's a real picture of him. I don't know Trey Hendrickson that well, but nonetheless, these articles are – to me, it kind of looks like him, but I haven't looked at him.
Let's take a look. Yeah. All right.
But the articles that fly up on all the message boards and all the Facebook posts and stuff is just out of hand. And I'll be honest with you, man, it's not just these willy-nilly websites. There's some of them that are supposed to be respectable Packers websites, and you see them throw these clickbait titles up and this and that. And there's nothing that will make me unsub quicker than that, man. I mean, even if they waste 45 seconds of your day, that's 45 seconds I can't have back, and my blood pressure is now through the roof. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that is him, by the way. I just verified it. That is actually a photo of him. Yeah. The eye black was throwing me off.
It looked like him to me, but also with the blurred image in the background, it almost has an AI feeling to it.
Kind of vibe to it, yeah.
So anyway, obviously that was fake news. Let's get to Jerry. Her comment question in the chat says, what is a boot scheme, Clayton? I hear that a lot. Also, thanks for the Matt's podcast tip. He is so excellent on Packernet. Hey, appreciate you. And then she went on to say, also, what is meant by Colin Oliver's FBI? We'll go ahead and hit that one first. FBI, Jerry, stands for football intelligence. It's a term that's been used for years. I first learned the term listening to Tim Ryan and Pat Kerwin, former GM, former NFL offensive lineman, on the Moving the Chains podcast way back in the day on Sirius NFL Radio. But it's also in Pat Kerwin's book, Take Your Eye Off the Ball. FBI just stands for football intelligence. That's what it stands for. So it's just how, you got some players that are physical freaks. And then you got others that they don't measure, they don't test out that well. But it just seems like they're always in the right place at the right time. Seems like they're a half a step ahead of everyone else, right? That's what FBI is being able to diagnose the play in front of you. Another term, like on the offensive side for a wide receiver, if someone's got a high FBI, they may be able to read the defense, read off coverage a little bit better than the average wide receiver, and be able to understand the DB splits and understand the technique they're playing with, so you can get a little bit of leverage, breaking a route off at 8 yards instead of 10 or 13 yards instead of 15, knowing that what the defense is running. It's just football intelligence is essentially what it is. So anything you want to add to that there, Tim? Because it applies to every facet of the game.
Oh, for sure. First thought that comes to my mind is obviously defensive side of the ball. I think probably the best, most shining example of a defensive player on the Packers with high FBI is Xavier McKinney. You just watch him play there on the back end. He has the ability to be anywhere and everywhere on the field at the right time, and it's because how much of the game that he really understands and what we're trying to do. So that'd probably be the first name on the defensive side I'd think of for sure. But yeah, man, that's awesome.
Randy Steen in the chat, I think he's trying to figure out if he was one of the winners of the autographed Lucas Van Ness card. Randy, whoever won it was in the Patreon group, and the only name is Randy. There's 2 Randys in there. One's got a last name, and the other is just Randy. The one that's just the single name Randy, that was the winner that got drawn. However, it was the second place winner. So Damon Stewart was the first place winner. We already reached out to him. We haven't heard back from him yet. So if you are that Randy in there, and again, the way to confirm that is just shoot me a direct message on Patreon from that account. And like I said, there's only one account in there that just got the first name Randy. Nonetheless, Greg S. already reached out. He was the third place winner. So if it isn't you in the Patreon group with that just single name Randy, then Greg S. would be the winner if we don't hear from that Randy. So we'll get that all ironed out. Like I said, I reached out to Damon today. If we don't hear from him by Wednesday, we'll go with the second or the third place there. So appreciate you reaching out, pal. All right. So this next question here, Tim, this comment question from Jerry, I'm excited to get into. Anytime we could talk a little scheme, right? And she says, what is a boot scheme, Clayton? I hear that a lot. Also, thanks for the podcast. Okay. So a boot scheme, if you were to stamp what the Shanahan system is, the Kyle Shanahan system, which keep in mind, you got to kind of go back in history a little bit to understand how this all evolved. And I've talked about this several times on the pod, but just kind of in passing and not specifically. But thank you, Randy. Appreciate you, pal. So you got to go back to the origin of this scheme. And I'm going to try to do it in a not so wordy way, but you guys remember Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan's dad. He worked for the San Francisco 49ers, okay? So he came up in a West Coast offense. So he ends up taking the job in Denver, okay? He takes the job in Denver, and I can't remember what year it was. It might have been around 95. It might have been a little bit earlier. Whenever he took the job in Denver, it was probably a little earlier, to be honest with you. But when he took the job in Denver, he hired a gentleman by the name of Alex Gibbs, who was an offensive line coach who had been with several NFL teams, okay? Now, let's pause Mike Shanahan for a second and talk Alex Gibbs. Alex Gibbs was the father, the guy who created, the godfather, if you will, of the wide zone, not wide zone, but zone blocking scheme in the run game. Okay, up to that point, most of the teams would just play gap run, right? And then he got the idea of, why don't we go with smaller offensive linemen that are more agile, and let's block to a zone, knowing that their agility, their athleticism will be able to beat defensive linemen to the point of attack, and also use the leverage or over aggressiveness of the defensive front to put us in an advantageous place to be able to get outside. Right. And then it evolved into inside zone and all that, but you're blocking to a zone with smaller offensive linemen. I think it was Stank was his name, Mark Schlereth. He was on that Denver Broncos offensive line.
Yep.
You guys remember when Terrell Davis just went absolutely ham on the league, rushed for 2,000 yards, if I remember correctly, right? That was the scheme they used. He was great at patience, get out wide, and then use the cutback. So what you do is you're showing an outside zone blocking scheme, okay? And then as the defense over pursues, you cut back off of it. Now you got a cutback lane. That's essentially how the Alex Gibbs blocking scheme came about. Now, Ed Madden asked a great question here. Didn't Alex Gibbs coach the Hogs in Washington? He did not. Alex Gibbs, I don't even know if he's related to Coach Joe Gibbs. Joe Gibbs was the head coach in Washington, okay? Alex Gibbs, they may be related, they may not. I don't think he was in Washington with Coach Gibbs, okay? But he was with several different teams as an offensive line coach, assistant, all that stuff. He was actually with the Kentucky Wildcats way back in the day as a coach, an assistant way back in the day. So anyway, Alex Gibbs, zone blocking scheme. So Shanahan says, you know what? Why don't we implement that zone blocking scheme in our run game while also having the backbone and the structure of a West Coast offense? So it becomes a zone blocking West Coast offense is essentially what it did. Now, when we say boot scheme, you're talking about running wide zone and then play action booting off of it. So you're getting the whole defense moving in a direction where you can use a cutback lane with the running back, but also you get them moving in one direction and then you fake the handoff and bootleg off the other side. That's what John Elway did so well with his mobility, ability to throw on the run, all those things, right? So again, that's what we're talking about here. Now I'm going to drop this down, Tim, and we're going to, and thanks to everybody for the Patreon questions, we're going to pull it up here for Jerry and show an illustration of what we're talking about. All right. So here we've got our telestrator with our little handy dandy playbook. All right. I'm going to kill my camera too, because I'll probably have to get kind of close. So we're just going to show you an 11 set here, because that's what we run the majority of the time, right? And what we're going to come out in is a tray left ace set, okay? And again, what does tray left mean? Hopefully you can see my cursor. Yeah, so you see the Y is in the 3, okay? He's one of the 3 that are to the left. If he was a receiver, we call it trips. Instead, it's called tray, okay? So you got your slot receiver, your Z, and your Y on that side of the field. You're in an ace set, which means a single back set, all right? That's how we're setting this up here. Let me zoom in just a touch. I got to make sure I keep that active there. Okay. So when we're talking about a wide zone scheme, right, this is what the blocking scheme would look like. So if we were to take this player here and say we're going to run a wide zone blocking scheme. So let's say we're going to run a stretch left, Tim. These guys are going to block, right, to an area rather than a gap. They're blocking all to the left, right? So you're getting this huge blocking scheme here, right? And then you're blocked out here, and actually, let me undo that. Yeah, so you're blocked here, right? And X will just take care of the X will take care of who he needs to take care of. So that's what we're talking about. You're moving the offensive line to the left, right? And the running play in this case, if it was a stretch or an outside zone run, would be designed to go outside. But if these defenders, right, over pursue, right, and they get over here in time to stop that, then guess what? That running back is going to use that cutback lane that we talked about, right? Where he's going to look to cut back inside off of that.
Yep.
All right. That's what we're talking about with a wide zone run. Now let's back it up a touch. We're showing you now how these defenders will get, taken out of place, right? And they're going to line up just like that with a mock and a wheel there and a nickel 4-2-5 here. Let's put the left end up on the line of scrimmage. So essentially you're gaining a hat. Now, it's not about necessarily stealing a gap. It's about gaining a hat, meaning this left end ain't even getting blocked because he's out of the equation, right? So now imagine this defense starts to key in on this, all right? And, they're starting to attack now, right? They're all coming downhill. They're attacking the outside zone. They're even getting gaining gap integrity and covering the cutback lanes, right?
That means it's time to break out the boot.
Exactly. So when you break out the boot, and let me explain when you talk about a boot scheme, which was Jerry's question, let's take this block off these guys now, right? And we'll even add a route into Y here in a second, seeing, how that's set up. But now let's run the bootleg with the quarterback. And what we mean by bootleg, this is all this means, Jerry, is you're going to fake the handoff to the running back, and then you're going to boot out the backside. Okay, so now you got the whole defense looking our left, their right, over pursuing, and now you can get really creative, have the slot run like a mid climb. You can have the Z give you a dig. You can stretch the field vertically with the X, or even bring him back on a hitch if you wanted to. Let's just keep him as stretching the field vertically here, right? So your running game is displacing all of these players on defense and getting them to flow towards the sideline and then you're bootlegging off of it. Now, here's what's really cool is, Y is going to set up as a run block here, but then at the end of the play, he's going to break up and have an underneath route as well. Okay, so here's how you're attacking the defense. You're getting this entire defense to flow to your left and take themselves out of the play, okay? And you're going to be attacking underneath here. You're going to be attacking in the mid-range here. You're going to be attacking here if the middle of the field stays open. You've got a window open there. Each of these routes have 2 windows, by the way. We won't go that in depth. And then, of course, you got the shot play up here. So you're attacking 4 different spots on the field on the weak side of the formation already, and then also on the negative hat count side of the play, because you've got the defense flowing completely away from where you're looking to pass the football. All right. That's what we mean by boot scheme. Now, again, let's back up and talk about the coaching for a second, okay? We told you that Kyle Shanahan implemented West Coast offense with a wide zone boot scheme, okay? Shanahan, when he leaves Denver, later on, he ends up going to Washington. Well, his son is now on the staff, okay? That's Kyle Shanahan. Tell you who else is on that staff. Tight ends coach Sean McVay. Quarterback coach was Matt LaFleur, if I remember correctly. You got all of these different guys. Now, there was a couple stops in between. I want to say they went to Houston with Kubiak after this, but it might have been before. That gets a little muddy to me. We could dive into it and do a write-up if you guys wanted us to. But nonetheless, you got all this staff that went over with Mike Shanahan and with Kyle Shanahan. I'll give you another name, Mike McDaniels, and I've talked about this a lot, the Miami Dolphins head coach, okay? He's real good friends with Kyle Shanahan. Do you know where they met? They were actually both the ball boys in Denver when they were just teenagers. So they grew up in this scheme, right, and then got their own opportunity. So now you had Kyle Shanahan, who ended up taking a job in Cleveland after Washington, I believe, and then he goes to Atlanta, and they had a great offense that year that they went to the Super Bowl and crapped the bed there against the New England Patriots. Well, he ends up getting a head coaching job with the San Francisco 49ers, and he takes people with him from that offense, right, from his staff. So now you got San Francisco running that scheme. Sean McVay gets the head coaching job with the LA Rams. He takes LaFleur with him. Then LaFleur leaves after 1 year, goes to Tennessee. Then he gets the job in Green Bay, right? So you have Mike McDaniel, who was the run game coordinator, who was with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. He ends up getting the head coaching job in Miami. Now, here's where it breaks off a little bit. When Sean McVay got to the LA Rams, that first year, he said, I wanted to run 12 and 21 personnel like Kyle did in San Francisco because he had use check. He said, but I kept looking up, and my best players, my best set would have been 11 personnel. He said, I'm looking up at Cooper Kupp's on the bench. Like, wow, one of my best players on the bench because I'm forcing this personnel of 12 or 21 personnel. So he went to 11 personnel, and that's why I showed this play in 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers, because Matt LaFleur runs the McVay system. He does not run the Kyle Shanahan system. Terminology similar, same passing concepts, all that, but we like to press into 11 personnel as opposed to 12 and 21. That could change this year. And when you drafted Luke Musgrave, it would kind of make you think they were looking at going in that direction. But, you know, Musgrave's been hampered with injuries, and you just kind of stay pressed into 11. So, and that's why I tip my cap, Tim, to Matt LaFleur, because when he came over, he's coming from the wide zone West Coast boot scheme, right? Yep. And then he steps into a roster that's built for a West Coast spread offense.
Right.
Rather than him being all egotistical.
Closer to the old 49er offense, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Mike McCarthy came from San Francisco, West Coast spread, right? Yep. So you could see that how things have kind of changed. But when he comes over, it would have been real easy for Matt LaFleur to say, scrap it all, we're running my scheme, right?
Yep.
But he didn't. He looked at the roster and said, okay, it's going to take a few years to flip this thing. Went to Aaron, and I know people like to think that Aaron Rodgers threw his weight around. He wouldn't run the plays. That couldn't be further from the damn truth. It's embarrassing that Packer fans have convinced themselves that's what it was. So he goes to Aaron. He goes, it steps in there with that roster and goes, okay, let's keep some of the McCarthy offense, and let's start to implement some of my principles, right? And then lo and behold, the RPO game took off with Philly when they won the Super Bowl. Guess what? Matt LaFleur, being a great coach in the copycat league it is, he said, hey, let's implement some RPO. And that was perfect for Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and they really pressed into RPO. Well, since then, Tim, they've gotten into duo, right? And again, the game is just –
I wouldn't be surprised to see a mix in the RPO game again, too, because Jay Love is certainly capable of running that. So you're right. It is a copycat league, and it's tough to stay fresh and original all the time. So you got to constantly mix it up for sure.
Right. And again, it's like last year, why didn't we have more bootleg? Well, you pressed into duo more than you did outside zone because you signed Josh Jacobs, but also Jordan Love's knee was injured most of the year. So it's harder to get under center. So you stayed in the gun more often and ran duo out of the gun a little bit more. So they may get back to some more wide zone, although that's not what Josh Jacobs does well, right? So you can run boot action off of inside zone. You can run boot action off of anything. You run it off power if you want to. You're down an extra hat or two, and if the defensive line reads it, your quarterback's going to get killed, right? So you got to take all that stuff into consideration as well. But I'll pause right there for a second, Tim, and grab a drink of water. Anything you want to add to this? Anything that piques your interest?
Just real quick, I stumbled on basically Shanahan's breakdown of his playbook here. Shout out to Sumer Sports, SUMER Sports.com. Shanahan's schemes, it's kind of interesting, kind of breaks down some of those similar principles we talked about. You can see the Oscar package up here, a couple of plays. Really, really cool article here, in-depth kind of breakdown of kind of what's going on there in the
you see the boot action there, Tim?
Yep.
It's all over the place, right?
All over the place. So this is like the most recent of what's available to us, basically. And I'm sure these aren't exact playbook images or anything, but kind of gives you an idea. So check out sumersports.com.
And you'll notice in Shanahan's offense, he's got the F that moves around a lot. The F is that guy that's constantly moving. That's Juszczyk, right? Back in his prime. He would line up in the I, then he'd bust out as a U, although they'd still call it an F. When we refer to F with the Packers offense, the moving point of McVay and LaFleur's offense, the F in that offense is a wide receiver. That's essentially a slot receiver, a moving Z. We just refer to it as F. Probably easier if we just called it slot and Z and just identified who motion. But I wanted to point that out because when LaFleur got hired, everybody's like, yeah, the F's going to be a tight end, the tight end. I'm going, I don't slower roll. It may be the case, but sure enough, we pressed in and it's like, nope, this is McVay's scheme. So, and he likes to use some 12 personnel too. Don't get me wrong with Higbee and those guys out there. So, but we really, really pressed into 11 because you got to get your best 11 on the field, man. So if 11 personnel, if that's your best 11 players, it's 3 wide receiver sets, 1 tight end, 1 running back, then stick to it.
Yep.
So, all right.
This receiving is tough.
I appreciate you pulling that up, though, Tim. That's really cool, man. And again, there's so much stuff out there that we can get our hands on. It's just a matter of taking the time to understand it and learn it. And in no way, shape, or form am I professional. I'm still learning every day. And that's why when we do Chalk Talk, I tell people in the chat, if I get something wrong, call it out, fellas. Because that's the other thing. Like, the terminology is different from offense to offense. It's not only is it different from offense to offense, you can run the same wide zone boot scheme, and the terminology from Shanahan would be different from LaFleur, and LaFleur's would be different from McVay, and on so on and so forth. Now, you'll hear different terms that we'll throw out, and I try to find the people that have the most pelts on the wall. Your Greg Cosell's, the guys that have been studying film. If I hear them call something like we used to refer to as yo-yo down here.
Now it's zipper, right?
Yeah. Teaching clinics, coaching clinics here in Tennessee with high school football, it was referred to yo-yo, right? Which is that zipper motion where a guy will motion over and then come back, right? So once I heard NFL coaches calling it zip, I heard, our boy Greg Cosell calling it zipper. We call it zipper now. So whatever your terminology is, everybody's a little bit different. Don't get hung up on that. Just get hung up on learning the game. That's the thing you should do, man. So it's a blast. It really, really is a blast. Now, I'll tell you, anything else you want to add to that, Tim? I
think that was awesome. Little deep dive there.
Yeah, and it's a great question by Jerry. Thank you so much, Jerry, for asking that. Love that topic. Anytime I can blame someone else for me geeking out over X's and O's, I'm going to jump at the opportunity because I know people get tired of hearing that type of stuff. But
that's why you started the Patreon group. I get it.
Exactly. It's like, please, somebody give me some X's and O's to talk about in here. So, and again, I can understand it could get boring on the pod too, and that's why we try not to do it too much. But it is it's worth it to take a look at that stuff, man. That's how you truly learn for sure. So, all right, Tim, talking about the wide zone boot scheme, one of the vital aspects of it, we just showed you on that diagram, the tight end blocking and then leaking back out the other side on that boot. That would be called a boot slide is what we would call that. And again, some other people you call it something else, but the tight end is so important in this offense. It is so important. Yeah. We just recently got this video clip from Up and Adams with Kay Adams and Mercedes Lewis being on there. And they were talking about how him and Matt LaFleur were so close, right? That's not a joke. Like they were. Let me tell you a joke. I heard Wildy tell this story the other day that Matt LaFleur was so fond of Mercedes Lewis, right, that his coaching staff bought a gag gift for him for a birthday gift. They bought him a Mercedes Lewis jersey. So it kind of bust his chops. Like, man, you really love this dude, you know? And it's funny too, because when we were looking at keeping Mercedes Lewis or even keeping him around an extra year, people were blaming Rodgers because Rodgers liked him so much. Well, Rodgers and Matt LaFleur were lockstep. I mean, lockstep. That's why I got so much respect for Matt, because as soon as we made the decision to move on from Aaron, he didn't throw a fit. He was just like, all right, it's going to be harder, but let's.
And even before that, you know, first time head coaching job, coming into an organization with a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. Like you said, you talk about the nuance with the offensive approach and the scheme. It says a lot about Matt LaFleur and his ability to kind of adapt his scheme to what Aaron was comfortable running and what we had been running. And, you know, the rest is history, man. He doesn't get enough credit. He really doesn't. Yeah,
for sure, man. He was just in a locker room. They said they put his locker right in the middle of the locker room. You think anybody's going to buck on that big dog?
Big dog.
Yeah. So when you got someone like that looks like a damn professional bouncer, and he's lockstep with the quarterback and the coach, that's how you hold a locker room together. And I know Aaron got a lot of flack for, you know, being a bad locker room guy, which couldn't be further from the truth, right? It is funny that Mercedes Lewis leaves, Aaron's gone, these guys are gone, and you're starting to get these little hiccups in the locker room. It doesn't mean the building's on fire, but you just get these little brush fires here and there, right? It's important to have a veteran presence. And I think Josh Jacobs, could you imagine how quick the locker room could get out of hand if you didn't have Josh Jacobs? So got to tip your cap to Goody for that signing for sure.
Absolutely. Like I had said that numerous times that it sucked to see Aaron Jones, you know, leave. But man, if you're going to replace him, what a excellent replacement in Josh Jacobs, because you're not missing out on that veteran leadership. And there's a lot of character qualities that I think both Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones share. They're both high caliber dudes, stand-up guys. So you're absolutely right, though. Having the youth and, you know, all that energy is great, you know, high ceiling and everything, but you need a few vets in there, both sides of the ball, to kind of just stabilize things in that locker room for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. J. Cole says, bring Mercedes Lewis in as a tight ends coach. I would be all about that. Not that you want Coach Dunn out of the building, but just bring Mercedes in to be his assistant. You can never have too many coaches, in my opinion, man.
Yep.
So I'd be all about that, man. You sign me up for that. I don't care what the salary would be either. It sounds like Mercedes wants to play another year, though, which is wild.
Probably one more. Yeah.
41 years old, Tim. That's
crazy. You know, he's a guy that I could totally see. Maybe he retires after, you know, if he gets picked up, plays this season, right? One more year, plays another year, hangs it up. Maybe he takes a year off. And I would not be surprised at all if Mercedes Lewis was right back in an NFL facility as an advisor or a coach or something in some way, shape, or form, I would think, right? Probably hard to walk away from football after, you know, half of your life, you know, dedicating your life to the game, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. All right, so again, one of the vital aspects of the Matt LaFleur offense is the tight end position. I was just thinking earlier today, I was like, I wonder how Tucker Kraft, you know, we did this breakdown of how Jordan Love is stacked up against Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre the first couple of years, and he stacked up well, I thought. I was wondering, how does Tucker Kraft look? And it's been 2 seasons, but how does he look in terms of the history of the tight end position in Green Bay? You know what I mean? Like, there's been some good tight ends to come through Green Bay over the years. So I just put this together earlier today. How does Tucker Kraft stack up against the most productive tight ends in Packers history? So, Tim, I love doing this. Before we break into the article here, there's no right or wrong answer, really. I like to ask you and the guys these questions before we get into something to see where your head's at. Who do you think of when you think of the best tight end in Packers history? Like, what's the first name that comes to mind for you? I know there's several names that come to mind, but if you had to go right off the cuff, that's the guy I would say, yeah, that's the standard setter for tight end for the Packers. Who would it be?
Whew. Man, that's a tough one.
I'll go to the chat while you think about it. Holmes says Bubba Franks and Keith Jackson, ? Holmes MD1 says JerMichael Finley. Holmes also says Mark Chmura. 2-0 for this says Richard Rogers. Come on now. Are we really going there?
The miracle in Motown, baby. Come on now.
Chuck Jagger says DeGuara. I don't think so.
Oh, man. How dare you?
Bates, Coffman. Many people don't know about Paul Coffman. Right?
That's right.
That's when it comes to mind, right? Holmes says, I think Keith Jackson, right? And it comes down to what would the criteria be? You know, for me, it's who had the best years individually and then who did it over a sustained amount of time, right? So, and again, this isn't to try to pick out who's the best tight end in Packers history. It's just to say, all right, let's talk about some of these guys. Let's look at the stat line and see where Tucker Kraft stacks up. Anybody else come to mind for you, Tim?
Chewy would probably be the first.
That's one of the first ones I thought of.
Yeah.
You know, it was.
Yeah. Bubba Franks too. I mean, you know, for a while. Same thing with Keith Jackson, one of my favorite Packer tight ends ever. Brings me back to, you know, my younger days watching the game, but we only got, I believe, 2 or 3 seasons with him. You know, he wasn't here that long. So I'm not sure, you know, same thing with guys like Jimmy Graham, right? What was that? 2 years? You know, it's kind of tough to kind of quantify, but some stand out more than others. Obviously, I think we'd probably take a guy like Mark Chmura or Bubba Franks over a Martellus Bennett or something, you know. Yeah. But you know, and we can't forget you know, the handful of years we got from Big Dog as well. I think he belongs in the conversation. Obviously, not a, you know, huge receiving tight end, but man, that guy was responsible for some of the best offensive plays we've had just by doing his job and doing it right every time. So,
absolutely. When somebody was called to, he'd catch the football.
For sure. You know, just wasn't known as that receiving threat first, you know, and that's probably what made him so deadly, because we could dial up something for him in the red zone and they'd forget about him.
Yep. All right, so let's go through it, man. Let's talk about it. So these were the most productive tight ends by year. Okay, so this is basically the best season in Green Bay Packers history for a tight end. Paul Coffman in first place with 814 yards receiving that year. I don't have the touchdown, so this is just receiving yards, okay? JerMichael Finley, number 2 at 767. That was in 2011. Paul Coffman in first place was 1983. I was 1 year old, Tim. I don't remember that one much. So JerMichael Finley second at 767. Paul Coffman again in third place in 1979 with 711 yards. And then look who's fourth on this list. Tucker Kraft, 707 yards last year as a tight end. Fifth place, once again, Paul Coffman, 687 yards in 1981. There's Chewy. Mark Chmura coming in the number 6 spot at 679 yards in 1995. And then go ahead, Tim.
I was going to say, look at JerMichael Finley, 7 and 8. You know, he's another one kind of like, you know, there's certain Packers that come to mind that you hate that their career was cut short by injury. You know, you think of Nick Collins, you think of guys like JerMichael Finley, you know. I wonder what kind of career he really would have put together. He might have been really one of the all-time greats. Really still is, according to the numbers we're looking at now, despite the shortened career, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, Finley seventh place with 676 yards in 2009. Then in 8th place, Finley again, 667 in 2012. In 9th place, you got Paul Coffman in 1985 with 666 yards. And then Jimmy Graham in 10th place, 636 yards in 2018. So if you look at that list, I think we would probably all agree. It looks like Paul Coffman, probably the best tight end in the history of the Packers, right?
Yep.
Well, Tucker Kraft, only his second year starting, was just a little over 100 yards off of matching him from the 1983 season. So, I mean, it's a solid year. Now, let's go through and look at their career. Look at Paul Kaufman back in the day. Here.
Monster.
So Yeah, in the Mud Bowl against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just dragging defenders. So here was his career stats. We'll just run through it real quick. Starting in 1978, 0 yards, although he played in 16 games, according to this. 79, he had 711 yards and 4 touchdowns. 1980, 496 yards and 3 touchdowns. Then 687 yards and 4 touchdowns. 287 yards and 2 touchdowns. Must have got hurt that year. And then his best year was 1983, where he had 814 yards and 11 touchdowns that year, averaging 15.1 yards per reception. 1984, 562 yards receiving with 9 touchdowns. 85, he had 666 yards receiving with 6 touchdowns. And then, of course, it was pretty much over from there. In 86, he went to Kansas City and played for 2 years there before going to Minnesota. And, 75 yards, 42 yards, and no yards there with the Vikings. So Paul Coffman, one of those players we don't talk about enough, for sure.
We should. Mr. Available, too. Look at those games played totals there. It looked like he had one year, 82 maybe, where he was banged up, only played 9 games.
Yeah. And H.E. Solder was
there we go. 82, the strike year. All right, that makes sense.
82 was the strike year.
Okay.
Since I have no life. You're in good company here, H.E. Solder. I promise you that, buddy. Thank you for that info.
So then maybe it's true then. It looks like, what did he miss? 3 games in his whole career? 12, 15, 16, 14. The guy was just always available, man.
Yeah, always available. So, again, Paul Coffman kind of leading the way. Let's go to the number 2 one here. And, again, this isn't a ranking. It's just another guy that stood out to me was JerMichael Finley. Obviously gave us some great years starting in 2008. Only 74 yards that year with 1 touchdown. Then in 2009, he kind of blew up, 676 yards and 5 touchdowns. You guys remember the Super Bowl year in 2010, he got hurt. And he only had 301 yards and 1 touchdown. Came back in 2011 and was healthy as an ox, had his best year, 767 yards receiving with 8 touchdowns. 2012, 667 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. And then, of course, 2013 is when he sustained the neck injury. I think he broke his neck, if I remember correctly. It was something crazy. 300 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns, so that cut his career short. He was on pace, Tim, to be a solid tight end. When you look at him comparatively speaking, if he would have played as many years as Coffman, he probably would have finished with more receiving yards, especially with Aaron at quarterback.
I agree. And that run that those Packer teams had, 2012, 13, 14, we all remember the Super Bowl run, but arguably those teams continued to improve, just a couple stupid mistakes that cost us opportunities in the postseason. But I agree, Clay, like if JerMichael Finley had the opportunity to play into his 30s, who knows what kind of numbers we would have seen. But, unfortunately, it's another career cut short by injury. And that's part of the game, though, right? It happens to every organization. And, it's sad, but you can't help but wonder what might have been with JerMichael Finley for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Ed Madden said he had his neck fused. So there you go. Oof. That was kind of the details of the – I know he wanted to come back.
Ended Sterling Sharp's career, correct? Was the neck? He had the neck issue or something?
Might have been. I know Nick Collins similar, right?
Yep.
So, around that time, as much as we like to criticize the league, around that time, that time frame is when the league really started. Hey, we got to get your head up, boys. You can't be leading with the crown of the helmet, right? CTE, neck injuries, all this stuff, and I do feel like we've seen less and less of it. So they probably came a long way there in that regard. But nonetheless, JerMichael Finley, one of those guys that was on pace to have a great season before, or a career before his season got cut short there in 2013. Next, you got Mark Chmura, Big Chewy on that Super Bowl winning team. Is that big Bill Romanowski chasing him down too? God.
I don't know. I can't tell. Is he trying to spit on Chmura? I can't tell.
Bill Romanowski, man, you talking about a dirty player.
Might have been the dirtiest of all time.
Oh yeah. No, he would. I want to say he punched a teammate and broke his cheekbone or something in practice one. He was just.
I absolutely believe that 100%.
Roided up to allegedly. When I say allegedly, he's admitted to it, but allegedly anyway. We'll cover our bases here. But anyway, here's Mark, not Chmura. Chewy wasn't roided up. Well, I don't know. Who knows? Romanowski admitted to using steroids. All right, let's move it along. And I will say this. Chewy said something one day on ESPN Milwaukee, Tim. Have you ever seen the movie The Program? College football.
Oh, yeah. James Caan. Are you kidding me? One of the greatest.
there's a lot of people that they'll criticize that movie and go, I don't like that it shined a negative light on football, and that's not how it was. BS. Chewy said, do you remember the scene where the guy got the oil change? You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, they would actually have someone come in and inject clean. They would pull bad urine out and inject clean urine in the night before they had to do a urine test. All right. He said he had a teammate, I think he said in college, maybe. Might be misquoting that a little bit, but he had a teammate at I think it was college. So I think he played at BC, so you do the math. That actually had that very process done. I was like, holy cow. He said the things that guys would go through to just try to get a competitive edge, 2-0 for this. That's how Russia did it in the Olympics. I don't know if he's joking or not. That might be true, actually.
Probably true. Allegedly, it's true.
But anyway, the people that were criticizing the program, that movie, The Program, and by the way, if you have not seen The Program, it's from the late 80s, early 90s, around that time. Go watch it. If you like college football, go watch that movie. It is so good, man. Oh, yeah, so
classic.
I watch it every late
Put
summer.
the kids to bed before you watch the movie, though. That's probably not one for the young bucks, right? If memory serves me correct.
I want to agree with you, Tim, but damn, I turn on Netflix nowadays, and I'm like, what is this?
That's true.
I mean, they got little.
I'm showing my age, I guess it doesn't matter anymore, right?
It's just so weird how we've came. You know what I mean? How far we've like that show that they had on Netflix with the underage girl dancers and stuff, and I was what are we doing? What are we anyway? Well, it's got off the rails.
Help us all.
Yeah. So Mark Chmura, all right, starting in 93, only 2 catches for 13 yards. Do you think Tucker Kraft did better than him his rookie year? I think he probably did, right?
Probably, yeah.
1994, his second year in the league, 165 yards receiving, 9 touchdowns, right? So I'm sorry, not 9 touchdowns, 0 touchdowns. That was 9 first downs is what that was. So he averaged 11.8 yards per catch. So you could kind of see it starting to click. 1995, and I think the stars mean there were Pro Bowl years. It might be all pro, but he was 26 years old in 1995, 679 yards receiving with 7 touchdowns. That was hands down his best year. So that was one of Brett Favre's, go-to targets. And that was the year that Brett won the MVP, obviously. The next year, he only played in 13 games, but he had 370 yards receiving, no touchdowns. Then the following year, played in 15 games, 417 yards receiving with 6 touchdowns. In 1998, he had 554 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns. And, of course, in 99, only 55 yards receiving, no touchdowns, and obviously retired after his 7th year in the league. So, again, we're going through these just to kind of set precedent. These are 3 of the most productive tight ends in the history of the Packers, right? Paul Coffman, JerMichael Finley, and Mark Chmura. Now let's take a look at our boy Tucker Kraft, all right? Only 2 years in the league. Look at his rookie year. He played in all 17 games in 2023, 355 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. So, again, you go to Chewy's first year, only 13 yards. Second year, 165. So Tucker Kraft outperformed Chewy. His second year in the league matched to Tucker Kraft's rookie year in the league, right? If we go back up to JerMichael Finley, he outperformed JerMichael Finley's rookie year as well, who only had 74 yards and played in 14 games, right? And Paul Coffman's rookie year, he didn't have a single yard. So comparing apples to apples in terms of young rookies in the league, Tucker Kraft is off to the fastest start at the tight end position in Green Bay Packers history.
Yep.
So now let's go to year 2. Year 2, huge step. Played in all 17 games, 707 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. Let's compare that to each tight end's breakout year. Chewy's breakout year, his best year, was in 1995, 679 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. So he already, in his second year in the league, has had a better year than Chewy ever had. And this isn't to knock Chewy. This is just speaking facts. Chewy ever had in his entire career. Tucker Kraft has already surpassed that, right, in his second year. If you go to JerMichael Finley, his best year was his 4th year in the league where he had 767 yards receiving. So Tucker Kraft almost beat JerMichael Finley's best year. Although if you go to the second year for JerMichael Finley at 676 yards, receiving 5 touchdowns, Tucker Kraft has outperformed him in his second year.
Yeah.
So he's tracking being an all-time great tight end in Packer history. And then Paul Coffman, of course, Tucker Kraft, his second year in the league, outperformed Paul Coffman's second year in the league with 711 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like I said, Tucker Kraft had 707, just 4 yards less, but 3 more touchdowns. Tim, does this catch you off guard? Because, again, I knew Tucker had a great year, and we've talked about the passer rating when targeted and all that. He's like top 10 in the entire league amongst receivers and tight ends who had 60 targets or more. Does this catch you off guard? I mean, this dude he's playing better football than any tight end in the history of the Packers in terms of the first 2 years in the league.
I'm not being arrogant when I say, no, it didn't really catch me off guard. I mean, Musgrave's always been the question mark since these two got to town. I've always felt that way. I've always felt like Tucker was going to be that guy. And you can see it here in the numbers. It's a steady improvement every year, and he's Mr. Available. What I like is, 40 targets in 23, 70 targets in 24, so you can see the concerted emphasis that Coach LaFleur is making to get Tucker Kraft involved in this offense, not just as a blocker, but as a pass catcher, because we know he's the yak master, right? So I'm not completely shocked, and I wouldn't be completely shocked that if he continues on this trajectory and has a long career, that he will probably be the greatest tight end in Packer history when it's all said and done. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know. But I would anticipate more of the same improvement from Tucker Kraft in year 3. And I can't wait to see, with the addition of guys like Savion Williams and Matthew Golden in this offense, combined with the weapons we already have. I mean, we're going to be seeing Tucker Kraft running butt naked through the trailer park on a lot of plays. I think we're going to free up a lot of action for him. And we already know, even with the double team or safety help, it's tough to handle Tucker Kraft in the open field. So it'll be fun to watch these teams try and scheme against us.
Yeah. And again, like when you see a young player start to break out like this, you immediately think, okay, can it be sustained, right? Can you continue to play at that level? There's a lot of things that come into factor. Health, you got to stay healthy.
Yep. You've
got to understand the scheme. He's already got a grab of the scheme, right? You've also got to have kind of that work ethic that I don't know if it's an ability or not, Tim, but it's an attitude that, hey, I am not going to slack off. I don't know if you guys heard locker clean-out interviews last year, but Tucker Kraft, his was just like, this is not good enough. Yep. And basically, the way I took it was like, there's going to be some damn changes around here, and I'm going to lead the charge. I don't think he's going to be one of those guys that's a bad teammate. He's a spark plug. You can tell his teammates love him. He's just one of those dudes that he's got this positive attitude. I'm telling you, man, if he stays healthy, you look at the work ethic, it's there. You look at the attitude, it's there. His ability to pick up on the playbook, and you go, well, how did he pick up so fast? Remember Matt LaFleur's rookie year? Matt LaFleur said he was leaving the building. Everyone was already gone, and they walked by like a film room or whatever, and he noticed a light on there, looked in, and Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft were in there studying the playbook. Everybody else was out of the building, and those two telling you, this is a guy that I want the captain to see on his chest.
Me too.
That's what we're seeing, right? It's early. I get it. Guys, he could not perform at this level the rest of his career and be a complete bust. That could happen. That's on the table. But I'm not betting against this dude, man. I'm not going to do it. So.
Me neither.
All right, let's see. We got a super chat from Bates. Thank you so much, buddy. He says, if Kraft has another good season, would they look at signing him to a new deal in the offseason, although having 1 year left on the rookie deal, I believe, still learning this contract stuff. So there's a rule in place, Bates, that you cannot re-sign a player until the final year of their deal, okay? So, and I think that's what you're saying is just 1 year left. Would you? Yep. Absolutely. He's one of those dudes. If he duplicates what he did last year, right, and he stays healthy and everything looks good, he's one of those guys that you get that contract done before training camp, period, case closed, going into the final year of his deal. And I'm trying to think, this will be year 3. Yeah, so going into this offseason, again, like you said, Bates, if he has another stellar year, go lock him up. Tim, what do you think about that? Because you're probably not going to play. You're probably not going to have to pay him like top 10 tight end money either. You know what I mean? Like you'll have to pay him as a starting tight end, but I don't think he'll be one of these guys that makes more than Kelsey or somebody. You know what I mean?
I agree, and that's all the more reason to give a guy like Tuck Norris some of those incentives in that contract, right? Because that's a guy that's going to, do a lot of things, but one thing he's not going to do is be outworked. He's going to work harder than everybody else every day to the best of his ability. So I think incentive laden contract for his second deal might be something we could see, but I think Bates is right. I think it's a no-brainer, man. Like you got to keep him around, even if it's a 5-year deal or something, you know what I mean? And just keep him here for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. No, hey, thank you, Bates. Appreciate the super chat, buddy. And glad that made sense. Yeah. Because there's a big misconception on that whole, like I would love once you identify a good player, go to him as early as possible and just tack that, get the signing bonus up front. That goes in their pocket right off the bat, and you can allocate it later and get somebody locked down. But the new CBA won't allow teams to re-sign a player until they're in the final year of their deal, is what it sounds like. So final year of their rookie deal. I think a veteran, you can do it at any point, I believe. I could be wrong there. We need to check that. That's why I love talking about this stuff, because we can kind of learn as we go. But it's definitely applies with rookies for sure. So appreciate the super chat, pal. Let's see. We had a couple other marked in here, Tim. Let's hit them real quick. And let's see. 2-0 for this earlier. It says the potential for this team with Kraft, Love, Jacobs, Wilson, Golden, Reed, Wicks, Dobbs, and Watson coming back as well. Yeah, when I name off those players, I don't think I'm as high on all of them as most 2-0 for this. Like Kraft, absolutely. Like I'd give Kraft an A. If I were to give these guys letter grades, I'd say Kraft A, Love's tough because into 2023, A++++. But last year, I would put him in the B category. So maybe a B+ for Love. Josh Jacobs, A. Emmanuel Wilson, B+. B+, and the only reason I don't give him an A is because he didn't have more carries.
Yep.
I mean, he did everything he could, Matthew Golden, the verdict's out there, right? Yeah. And you say A. Matthew Golden, we got to see it first, right?
Yep.
Jaden Reed, I'd give him an A-, B+, somewhere around there. Rookie year A, last year B. So B+, A-, something like that. Wicks is tough because his rookie year, I mean, he really shined. But guys, last year, all the flack that Reed's catching over the drops and stuff, it should go towards Wicks. Wicks was bad last year. It was pretty bad.
I go C+ on
Wicks. I think that's very fair too. Very fair.
Yeah.
And then Dobbs is just probably a steady B- for me. Somewhere around there is what I would give him. You got to take into consideration the injuries. You got to take into consideration the suspension and the reasons that the Packers. I just caught the ball. The reason that the Packers probably won't re-sign him. You got to take that. I would probably give him a B- is what I would give Dobbs. What do you think about Dobby? What would you give him?
Rome's my dude. I like Rome, man. I'm gonna go B+ for him.
Mm-hmm. And if you remove the injuries for Watson, I would say B+ there.
Yeah. After a shaky rookie season, right?
Yeah. He
really bounced back and has fought through a lot of injuries and adversity. And man, I'm excited if he can get back ahead of schedule this year. Holy cow. Watch out for this receiving core, like 2-0 for this is saying.
Yeah, and if you've got to take into account the injury, I would probably give him a B, Watson. I'd say B. If he had no injury history whatsoever and did what he was on track to do last year, and guys, he averaged over 21.5 yards per catch. That's A all day, So that's kind of how I would see it. So, the potential for this team with these guys, I'm on board with you, man. If they hit on Golden, sky's the freaking limit. If they don't hit on Golden, you're still going to have a top 10 offense if everybody stays healthy. When I say everybody, you know what I mean. Like if you don't have 2 or 3 horrible key injuries,
right?
I hate
everybody misses a week or two from time to time. It happens. You're hoping nothing more than that, right?
Yep. And a player that's not even on this list is Rob Westerman in the chat from GBP Daily says, really hoping for a Musgrave breakout year. If Musgrave breaks out this year, then it means we were in 12 personnel more than 11. And I don't see us pressing into 12 as much as most people would think. you would probably have it increase if he shows that kind of, improvement in camp. You'll probably, it might go up 5% of the snaps from where it was last year in terms of the personnel. But I think they're really going to want to press into 11, Tim, because, who are you going to take off the field to bring Musgrave out there? That's the problem, right? And I'm saying that, not saying that we're not going to play 12. We're going to play more 12 this year than we did last year. I just about guarantee it. But in order for Musgrave to have a breakout year, I feel like we'd have to be in 12 personnel darn near 50% of the time. And I don't think they're going to take Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed, Dontavion Wicks, Romeo Dobbs, these guys off the field. Now, if they decide they're going to use Musgrave as a big wide receiver, that could be the case. You flex him out wide. It's technically 12 personnel, but you're in a wide split. They may go that route, Tim. What do you think?
I think so. And I think it's like we talked about earlier about, the illusion of complexity and also complexity within an offense and trying to, kind of mix things up and not be predictable. We haven't seen Musgrave in a while. This is our first crack at him being pretty healthy, right? Going into this year after, a lot of nasty injuries that he's had in his short career so far. But I would agree with that sentiment that we'll probably see more 12 personnel this year, but I don't think we're going to, run a ton of it all the time. It almost begs the question, do we mix in a little 21 and go and, maybe give Tuck Norris a playoff and, you can put Musgrave out there with, E. Wilson and Josh Jacobs or something and run a 21 set, two back set with one tight end and maybe Musgrave can, catch a release and, catch a ball in the flat, turn up field or something. I don't know. But I do think we'll see an effort to get him some touches. I would definitely think, especially early, like preseason and stuff like that. But when it comes down to, week one or whatever, it'll be interesting to see what kind of role they have for him in this offense with all the personnel that we have now. But I think Rob's absolutely right. If we get a breakout year from Baby Deer Legs, Luke Musgrave himself, and we got Tucker Kraft, you comped him as the next George Kittle the other day. I thought that was extremely accurate. I see a lot of that similarities in those two guys in their approach to the game, the way they play the game, and the type of players that they are. So I think if Musgrave breaks out and Tuck Norris is doing what Tuck Norris does, we're going to be problems for a lot of teams this year for sure.
You're going to make me do it, Tim. You done mentioned George Kittle. I'm going to do a little comp here. I think we need to do it. Dan Mullen with the super chat. All he said was, thanks for the content, guys. Hey, thank you for the dono there, Dan, and thanks for hanging out. Dan. We appreciate you, man. Sure. And right now on the leaderboard, just looked over at the leaderboards here on YouTube. Let's refresh it real quick. You guys know we got a new leaderboard feature. I'm just in love with it. I think it's awesome. Bates is currently leading along with Clint. It doesn't show me the full name there. I can't remember. Is it
Cosgrove? I think.
Yeah. Yep. They're both tied right now at 150 XP each. 2-0 for this is in third place with 100. And then Mike Berry, Solder, and several others are bringing up the fourth place spot there at 75 XP. Appreciate y'all chatting with us tonight, hanging out, man. Let's do this, Tim. Let's pull this down. Actually, I'll keep this up on my end. And I want to put George Kittle's stats up here real quick because you got me thinking now, like, how does he look compared to the start that George Kittle got? Now, George Kittle, to me, before I even look at the numbers, he seems like a first ballot Hall of Famer if he retired today. So I'm thinking these numbers are going to be through the roof. See if we can get it on the screen and look together. All right, so here are George Kittle's career stats. Oh, yeah, Tim, my God. Look at this, dude.
Monster.
Rookie year 2018, 1,377 yards with 5 touchdowns. That is in
targets.
That is crazy. And
you're 136 targets for a rookie tight end.
That's a great point, Tim. Now, year 2, he took his spots. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say you got to credit Shanahan and the staff for just getting that kid going right away. And I think that's a lot of the reason we're having this conversation right now is because they didn't handle him with kid gloves and, not allow him to just go out there and be a part of that offense. They cut him loose right away. And we got a whole stack of 1,000-yard seasons to show for it. So I think it's important to remember that. But go ahead. No, go ahead.
2019, he took a slight step back at 1,053 yards, 5 touchdowns. So now in 2020, it looks like he only played in 8 games, so he got hurt that year. 634 with 2 touchdowns. 2021, he jumps back up at, let's see here, 910 yards and 6 touchdowns. In 2022, 765 and 11 touchdowns. Then back up over 1,023, 1,020 with 6 touchdowns, and then back up over 1,100 yards in last year, 1,106 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns. So Tucker Kraft does not stack up to George Kittle yet, right? That rookie year in 2018, Tim, that is insane, man. I think people forget how good he has been. So, and that, I mean, if he were to hang it up right now, that's a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? It's got to be.
Off the stats alone, probably.
Yeah. God, that's crazy.
And you got to figure he's got at least 3 to 5 more seasons left, depending on
the way
how
he takes care of his body.
Yeah. Yep.
He's a real deal for sure. I hate that he plays for the 49ers, but
I know
he's one of my favorite players. So, Clint, armchair quarterback with the Dono. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Clint.
Yeah.
I like Ed Madden's comment here in the chat too. So much for tight ends taking 2 to 3 years, right?
Right.
Look at a guy like George Kittle. And I think arguably Tucker Kraft too. You could say that about Tuck. I think by year, you look at year 2 last year, I think it's no secret that he's figuring this out and he's on the right path. So I think this will probably be the breakout year for him as well.
Yeah. 2-0 for this says, how did he do so bad for me in fantasy that year? I don't know. So I'm not the fantasy guru around here. Jacob's out chasing skirt tonight, so you'd have to ask him when he's back in the office. All right, he's somewhere right now at a neighborhood barbecue like that on the ground for sure. So as soon as you mention the ladies, all of a sudden Jacob can't make it on the stream, can he, Tim? It's funny how that works. It's like, yeah, there's a new girl that moved in 2 apartments down. Jacob's like. You know what I'm saying? Unbelievable, that guy.
He's definitely ready to go.
Get ready to go.
All right. Let's talk a little Edgerrin Cooper before we wrap up. That sound good, man?
Yes, sir.
All right. Couple of tweets came down the pike here. Well, the first one of them I sent, but this one caught my attention. This was from PFF, and PFF Packers actually retweeted it. The top 32 linebackers going into the 2025 NFL season per Mason Cameron. Here is the top 10 list. So these are your stack backers, your top 10 stack backers in the entire league, according to Mason Cameron. Number 1, Fred Warner. Number 2, Zach Bond. Number 3, Bobby Wagner. Can we just say this for a second, Tim?
Yeah,
we were spot on wanting Bobby Wagner, were we not?
For sure. For sure.
We caught hell over that. He's 73 years old. That dude went out there and balled again, man.
Yep.
So, yeah. Number 4, Roquan Smith after the Bears, of course. It just took him getting out of Chicago. All of a sudden, he's a better football player. Funny how that works. Dre Greenlaw, number 5, and he's with Denver now. Bobby Okereke, I think I'm saying that right, with the New York Giants is number 6. Devin Lloyd with the Jaguars, number 7. Number 8, Jack Campbell with the Lions. Number 9, our very own Edgerrin Cooper with the Green Bay Packers. Dude is a dog. And number 10 with the Bears, TJ Edwards. So Edgerrin Cooper in the 9 spot, I think if he continues at the pace he kind of set last year, Tim, you're going to see him climb into the top 5 this year. I think Dre Greenlaw's best football is probably behind him. He'll still be a good linebacker, don't get me wrong. Bobby Wagner's got to fall off sooner or later, right?
Yeah. I'll believe it when I see it, though.
Right. Coach Lynn says Cooper better than all of them. Hey.
Oh, okay.
Hey, we're going to watch a little tape here in a second. We're going to pull up 3 clips of his 3 sacks last year. It's hard for me to disagree with him, Tim. Like, you put his tape side by side with half of these guys, and you're going to go, yeah, I'm taking 56. That dude, he jumps off the tape, absolutely jumps off the tape. So I'm with you, Coach Lynn. I think at the end of this year, if he stays healthy and takes that next step, I think you're going to see him in the top 5. And another guy, just like Tucker Kraft, just a great attitude. Plays just like Ray Nitschke, mean as hell on Sunday, but just an absolute stud of a teammate and player that you want to coach off the field.
I remember just reporting back from camp last year when he was not able to go and, couldn't even do any of the, just like, stretching or anything with the team. He was just standing there. And that's tough. It's got to be tough for a rookie who's like trying to get out there, right? And he was in Quay Walker's hip pocket every day of camp. Those two guys were like attached at the hip. And you could just see, him trying to absorb as much information as he could, even though he couldn't be on the field. And we saw an extended period of time where we didn't see reps from him at all. And lo and behold, the minute his number's called, Edgerrin Cooper comes out of nowhere and just kind of takes the NFL world by storm in his rookie season. And I think a lot of that is attributed to what you're saying about him, is that, as a player, when he's healthy on the field, he's a monster. But this is a guy that even if, maybe you need to rotate someone in, or, maybe it's your time to sit out, he's not going to pout. He's going to be engaged. Yep. He's always learning. And when you combine that with the physical freak that he is, I mean, you could be right, Clay. I think we could be looking at a top 5 spot for him by the end of this year. And, by the end of that kid's career, we could be talking Canton. You never know. I hate to get ahead of my skis a little bit, but
bro,
I'm starting to get that that kind of vibe,
Dude, I'm as skeptical as anyone. You'll hear me say, all right, guys, it's early. You heard me say it about Tucker. Tucker is tracking to be a great tight end, but things happen. You got to be realistic in that aspect. But the stuff that I seen Edgerrin Cooper do last year, just from a Green Bay Packer fan standpoint, being a fan since 2002, 2003, somewhere around that range, I have never seen them bring in a linebacker, a stack backer that plays the way Edgerrin Cooper does. Like, it was last year I went, this is different. This is way different.
I'm a long way from Blake Martinez, right?
Yes, that's correct. And again, you had some good ones, Tim. I remember Nick Barnett, solid linebacker. A.J. Hawk, one of my favorite players in the history of the Packers. I love the way A.J. Hawk played the game. I think he was way underrated by Packer fans, me personally. Team captain year in and year out, Super Bowl champion, won a national title in college. You would have to drag him off the field. You remember the game that I was telling you about? I went to Monday Night Football, that Aaron Rodgers first touchdown pass. That game, talking to that same gentleman in the stands, that was sitting next to me, we had a conversation about A.J. Hawk before that. He was playing with a shoulder harness that game. They strapped him into a shoulder harness so he wouldn't miss that game. And I remember him running Adrian Peterson down in that game. And people that said he was slow don't know what the hell they were talking about. Ran Adrian Peterson down, and that guy was like, I'm so glad he's in the lineup tonight. And we had a conversation about, he's actually in a shoulder harness. Like, dude was just so freaking tough. But Edgerrin Cooper, A.J. Hawk, no match for what I seen Edgerrin Cooper do last year. I'm just telling you. It wasn't even close. Like, if you were to put their tape side by side and say which one's a top 5 pick, I would have said Edgerrin Cooper's a top 5 pick over AJ. And I love AJ. I think AJ, like I said, is underrated. So he needs to be
I think they're most alike in the FBI category, right? Like AJ Hawk was one of them guys too. He knew what you were doing, man. You weren't gonna fool him at all.
And in that 34 defense too, when you were playing the run, he would stick his nose in there against those guards, man. He talks about it too. I've heard him talking about the McAfee. They're like, when you see a guard pulling and I've got to cut that off or they're gonna gain a hat. All right, here we go. Let me just go bury my skull into a 330-pound offensive lineman's chest, right?
Yep.
That's AJ Hawk. So I'm really excited to see Edgerrin Cooper. And what Dave says here, Dave MX6 Garcia says Quay and Edge was like peas and carrots. Smiley face. Quay played better in that 2 or 3 game stretch before he hurt his ankle. I know there was one game in particular, it was like, it just clicked. It clicked. Now it's one game, but it clicked. If they come out this year and take a step together, look out, because you got 2 physical freaks. I mean, it's going to be exciting for sure. So let's go to a little bit of tape, Tim. That sound good?
Yes, sir.
These are the 3 sacks that Edgerrin Cooper had last year. I think he had 3.5, and I just got the 3 full sacks here. But let's just pull it up here on my X account. This was a lot of fun to watch. I just said year 2 going to be wild for Edgerrin Cooper.
I remember this one already. Let's go. Oh, yes.
Look at him right here playing Joker, Tim, right?
Love it.
Playing Joker, lined up in a zero tech. And now watch what he does here. He's not going to blitz the quarterback right off the bat. Look at the motion. He's not even deterred right there. That's what you call a sugar spot, right? You're going to sugar the center like you're going to blitz, and then you're going to hop back out and just kind of play underneath, and now he's going to scrape, right? So look at LVN. LVN catches a lot of heat all the time. Look at LVN out here, wide 9, right? He's going to loop over, and then Edgerrin Cooper is going to scrape off of him, right? So he's showing a touch spy. Watch him jab step. LVN going to clear it out for him, hit the guard in the rib cage there too, right? Yep. Take the tackle with him.
And take the tackle with you, exactly.
Matt Stafford's like, who the hell is this joker, right? And look at Edge just finish, man. Dude, it does not get any better than that. I mean, that tackle too. Look at the wingspan. What's the wingspan here? Get you some. He's a dog, dude.
Take a look at Quay on that play too.
Mm-hmm. Let me go slow motion for us, Tim. We'll make it a little bit easier. Let's go.
It's kind of an example of what we were just talking about. Like, this is one of the rare times we saw them on the field together. Look at how comfortable Quay is over there, staying home in his assignment. It's like you got to feel like Quay Walker feels like having a guy like Edge Cooper out there next to him. It's just like a certain weight off of his shoulders and the ability to play a little bit more free, I think, when Cooper's on the field.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. So, again, there's a nice sack of Matt Stafford. Tried to hit him with that spin move. Coop wasn't having it. All right, next play. Here's another sack from Edgerrin Cooper. This is against Seattle. So, you see they're both mugging, right? This is what you call a double mug look, all right, double A-gap mug. You got Quay here, it looks like. That's 7, right? And then you got Edgerrin Cooper there. So, they're both showing blitz. Let's see if they actually blitz or not. There might be a double loop right here in the middle with both backers blitzing. Let's watch it. Slow motion. Nope, Quay's belling. Now look at Edgerrin. That was actually designed. Edgerrin, what he was doing.
That was like a stunt almost.
It was. Edgerrin Cooper's job right here is to take this offensive lineman and wash him out so Kenny can loop off of him. So it's kind of the opposite of a straight blitz. But what's crazy is he does that and then still fights through the block, and he's the guy who hits home.
Almost causing a fumble there, too. Gino almost dropped that ball. Did you see that?
Yeah.
He almost popped it out there at the end. That was Coop punching at it. Right there. See it?
Yep. Go ahead and rake at the ball as you're tackling the ball carrier, right?
I love it.
Again, let's watch it one more time. And it's again, firing in, washing the guard out, and then still finishing the play. And you see Kenny throw his hand up. He's like, damn, look at Coop take over. Love it, man. All right.
Oh,
this is probably my favorite. Yeah, you know what's coming here, Tim.
We're sorry, Fabio, but we had to show it.
Yeah, got to show it. So you got our boy Edgerrin Cooper right here standing up, right? He's kind of over the guard, but he's off. He's playing stack backer, but he's actually firing, right? So I love how he's trying to disguise it there. Now he's going to creep, and let's see what the play call is here. So it looks like they're twisting, right? It looks like Kenny's going to twist off of him maybe. Yep, they were trying to twist. They did a pretty good job picking it up, but look at Coop just fight through, and then, of course, smacking the ball out. Again, when you see it in real time, you don't really think it's almost like it was an accident he punched the ball out. That's not the case.
No.
Watch him go after this football. Watch his left hand. Punch it out.
Boom. Yep.
And then, of course, you got the hip check from Devontae Wyatt right here. Bang, get out of the way, big boy.
Yeah. You know why? Because Devontae Wyatt was tired of being held. Look at the right side of your screen from the snap. Hold the whole way.
Look at this hip check.
Get off me, little man.
That's a grown ass
little man. That's a grown man. That's a wow. Was that a guard that he just shoved to the ground?
Yeah. Either the guard or the center. Whoever it was, I guarantee he's over 300 pounds, and he just hip checked the hell out of him and still got on the ball. Just a great play.
You see Rashawn pull up at the end, like, nope, Devontae's got it. Let him get the ball. I'm not twisting an ankle over this.
So now the question is, do we use Edgerrin Cooper like this more often? You know, because, you know, what I love about it, Tim, we were talking about Colin Oliver, right, last night. And that's another piece you can bring in. It's going to take him a while to get acclimated to the system and everything that we always talk about. But how do you want to utilize Edgerrin Cooper? You know, everything's on the table. You can bring him on those blitzes. You can drop him into coverage. You know, that same game, he covered down the seam on Christian Kirk and actually put the ball up in a Tampa 2 call where he had mid-zone responsibilities. They put speed to 3 with Christian Kirk. He flips his hips, runs stride by stride with Christian Kirk, breaks the play up, and actually hurts Christian Kirk. Not that he was trying to, but hurt him on the play, knocking the ball out at the last second. That's him covering a receiver down the seam. He can do that. He can attack the flat. He can run those twist blitzes in the middle with the double A gap look. He can play joker.
Yeah.
You could probably rush him off the edge if you wanted to.
That's my answer, Clayton. That's how I want to see him utilized. I want teams to not know what the hell's going to happen when he's on the field. You know, like Mike Fire, I don't care. Put him at the mic. Send him right up the gap, right up the middle. Yeah. Send him off the edge. Put him in a slot. Let him cover. I don't care. Like, the guy's just so versatile. I think the more ways we use him, the better. Hopefully not putting too much on a young player's plate, but I think the guy can handle it personally.
Yeah. No, I mean, he proved last year he could, you know. It's going to be exciting, man. So, again, when you look at the linebacker room, we'll end with this. I just want to take a quick glance, and we need to get this updated. It might be a little out of date, but it should be fairly accurate. This is from our lads. Look at the Will and the Mike backer here, okay? So you got Quay starting as the Will. They got Edgerrin Cooper as the Mike. Now, again, those are very, very interchangeable. This is not 1997 anymore. Well, the Will and the Mike are very, very interchangeable in a nickel 4-2-5 in 2025. So you got Quay and Edgerrin Cooper as your starting backers. Then you got Isaiah McDuffie and Tyron Hopper. Then Isaiah Simmons and Christian Welch, right? They've got Colin Oliver listed as an edge here, and that may very well be where they play him at. But if you look at the depth of the linebacker position, Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, Isaiah McDuffie, Tyron Hopper, those all four are going to make the roster. There's no way they don't unless they end up on IR or PUP or something.
And I don't see them signing Isaiah Simmons not to keep him around.
Right. And Christian Welch probably on the bubble. But if you decide to only carry 5 linebackers as opposed to 6, if you decide to only carry 5, then it'll probably be Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, Isaiah McDuffie, Tyron Hopper, and Isaiah Simmons. Colin Oliver will make the roster as an edge, right? If you decide – that's the beautiful thing about Colin Oliver, and it's the reason I wanted to look at this depth chart, Tim, is Colin Oliver is so freaking valuable to this team that he can play edge defender or stack backer if they see him as a stack, right? That allows you to take one less edge to keep one less edge defender if you need to. Now let's look at the edge defender room, right? Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, Kingsley Enagbare, Baron Sorrell, Brenton Cox Jr. I feel like all 5 of those are a shoe-in to make the roster.
Yeah, Colin Oliver. Mosby's on the bubble.
Yeah, Mosby's definitely going to the practice squad, in my opinion, unless an injury happens. Yeah, Oliver's going to make the roster. He's a 5th-round pick, right? Yep. I mean, he would have to really bust out in camp in a bad way to not make the roster. So it's going to be your linebacker room got better with the addition of Isaiah Simmons and Colin Oliver. And again, people look at Isaiah Simmons like he's a bust, and I don't see him in the same light as the people that really, really like Isaiah Simmons. But he's only a bust because he was the number 8 overall pick. Right. If you had drafted him in the 3rd round, people would be talking about how he was a great 3rd-round pick. You know what I mean, Tim?
Yep.
So, and he's a special teams ace, too, it looked like last year. I think he graded out in the 80s, according to PFF, maybe even the 90s in special teams. So I'm excited about the linebacker room, man. I think we got better. I really do.
I do, too. Would have liked to see Eric Wilson stick around, but we knew what was going on with that. And I like, looking back on it, I like the McDuffie signing. It keeps you it's not a huge turnover. You've got some, familiar faces there. And, say what you want about Zay McDuffie, man. I love the way the guy plays football. I really do. He's got a few things in his game that he's still working on as he's, coming into his own still a relatively young guy. Got some years ahead of him. So I think that was a clutch move, keeping him in that linebacker room with, this young talent that we have. You need guys like that when you've got, young freaks like Edgerrin Cooper and stuff. So, and hey, Tyron Hopper, gosh, I hope we get to see a little bit more of him this year. I thought he showed a little bit of flashes last year, but we didn't get to see much of him. So hopefully he takes a step as well.
Yeah, I apologize, Jerry. I missed your super chat. I don't know how long it's been sitting there. It looks like a couple minutes. Jerry in the chat says, can't wait to see these guys going after Caleb Williams. Amen to that. Amen to that. If you guys remember in college too, Tim, Evan Williams caused absolute chaos on Caleb Williams when Oregon played
USC
there. I mean, I think he forced maybe 2 fumbles with him. I mean, he was just all over Caleb Williams. if Caleb Williams wants to play that little scramble game, Edgerrin Cooper's the dude you want on him. Now, they got matched up a couple of times last year, and it was early in the season. I remember this, and Coop took a bad angle. And and we didn't even talk about the fact that Cooper's put on 20 pounds.
Yep.
Like, dude's going to be a dog. And again, when you identify what a Mike Backer is, and Jerry, thank you so much for the super chat. When you identify what a Mike Backer is, a gap destroyer, right? He's the general of the defense. If they see him as a true Mike, he's got to be able to know the checks, know the calls, play sideline to sideline, but he's also a gap destroyer. That's what we just seen on that tape. So I think you got it there. Quay, to me, doesn't fit gap destroyer as well as Edgerrin Cooper.
That's your touch spy.
Yeah. He screams Will Backer. You know what I mean? He really does.
Yep.
And that play that we showed, that's how that would have lined up there too, was like he was kind of playing the flat, right? Playing the curl flat while Edgerrin Cooper blitzed. And Quay can blitz too. His pressure percentage is really good, if I remember correctly.
That's why I like those two kind of as a Batman and Robin, right? You know, like kind of like a tag team, because you got to think, you know, you're looking at those stack backers as a quarterback and you're wondering which one is going to blitz. And it might be both, it might be none. They can both drop into coverage. They can both, you know, blitz off the edge, blitz up the middle. It's going to be fun to watch this linebacking core. It really is.
Definitely. All right. That's it, gang. We're going to get out of here. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us tonight. This was a lot of fun. Want to give a special shout out to the Super Chats, United Bates, Dan Mullen, Clint the Armchair Quarterback, and Jerry with the Super Chats. Thank you all so much for supporting what we do here. Let's give a shout out to the MVP tonight over in our rankings on YouTube. And it looks like Holmes MD1, too old for this, United Bates, Ed Madden, and Clint Cosgrove all tied at 150 XP tonight. Chuck Jagger's coming in there next at 125. Appreciate y'all being very vocal in the chat and being a part of the show tonight. Y'all were awesome. Tim, you got anything else, Bob? Anything at all?
Just remind them about our charity of the month.
That's right.
GiveButter.com/KRPSJ5. If you want to make a dono, get involved with My Autism Connection and support for autistic adults. So this is your chance to win an autographed Dorsey Levens jersey. This is pretty cool, Clay. Good giveaway.
Absolutely. If you go to my Twitter account at Packers_access, click on that link that Tim has at the bottom there. Just whatever you donate, for every $5 donated, your name will get entered into the contest one time. And at the end of June, so it's going to run all through June, we're going to spin that wheel with everybody's name on it that donated and give away this awesome autographed Dorsey Levens jersey. So I appreciate you bringing that up. It's an awesome cause. Again, My Autism Connection, all our friends over there. Appreciate y'all partnering up with us and allowing us to make a little bit of a difference in this crazy world. And also the best way to support this show, if you like this content, you say, man, I don't want this to leave. I want it to stick around. I really enjoy this. You can join our Patreon community. People ask all the time, hey man, do you got a Venmo? Do you got a PayPal? The best way to support what we do is just join our Patreon community. $3 is all it costs. Patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. You get extra exclusive content. You also get access to the chats, questions for the show, just like the super chats, all that good stuff. So if you want to join, you can also scan the QR code in the upper right as well. So Tim, thank you for your time, bud. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me as always, man. Be back tomorrow.
All right, man. Everybody have a great night. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world and go back.
Here we go.
Bye, guys.